Hey, you're hanging out in the Link Up Lounge. I'm Tiffany Mason.
And I'm Donna Ruppel. Around here, we believe success isn't just about what you know, it's about who you link up with. This is your lounge for turning one link into endless opportunities.
Donna, it blows my mind that the two of us have over 30 years of combined networking experience.
I know. We've built businesses, expanded networks, and created unstoppable momentum, all through the power of strategic connections.
AKA networking. And now we're here to guide you to do the same, starting today.
So let's dive in, connect, and start making moves you didn't even know were possible. Welcome back to the Link Up Lounge. I'm Donna Ruppel, your Nocatee real estate expert, and I'm here with my co-host, Tiffany Mason of Virtually You, the boutique podcast management agency.
This is your lounge for turning one link into endless opportunities. And today, we're in the beginning of 2026, so we've got something new and bold, a networking detox. That's right. We're talking about what to stop doing in your networking life so you can make room for the right relationships and results.
I love this. Networking isn't just about adding more. Sometimes it's about letting go of relationships that feel forced or habits that are draining you, or groups or platforms that no longer align with where you're headed.
I know I've had to do this myself. I've had to take a hard look at where is my time going and what is actually getting results and what's not really, a very good return on my investment. And when you release what's not working, you create space for connections and conversations that actually will truly move your business forward.
I completely agree with this. I think that, like we've talked about in our networking group, doing a time audit, and it's something that I like to do every year. We can talk more about it some other time, but when you sit down and you look at where your time is going, it helps you know if that really is serving you or not. And the same thing applies for networking because, let's start with the awareness, taking inventory. Are there networking events that you dread attending? Now, if you're an introvert, you might say that every networking event you dread, but you kind of know what I'm getting at. Are there networking events that you dread attending? Let's say more so than others. Are you in groups where there's no real engagement or momentum? We've talked about those kind of groups, where you show up and you're just handing out your business card and everybody's there for the taking, and there aren't really, relationships being formed, momentum being made. Or are you maintaining connections that feel one-sided or draining? I mean, one-sided connections where you're constantly doing the touching and feeding into and referring, and you're getting nothing in return. That is something to take inventory of.
Yeah, I think that there's a time and a place for those type of events. If it's a growth period where you're really just trying to get your card in as many people's hands as possible. But then there's a time that we're talking about where where is your time going? What is the return on that time that you're spending? And how is it making you feel? Those events that you're not feeling like going to, why is that? Do a little self-discovery. What's going on there? It's not about ghosting or burning any bridges. We're not asking you guys to do anything like that. Just, really evaluate and be honest with yourself about your time and the energy that you have. Every yes to something misaligned is a no to something better. So when you think about I know we talk about in family life, when you say yes to an event that you want to attend or going out with a friend or whatever, it means you're really saying no to your family, or you're saying no to something else. And so I think it's wise to evaluate, what are you saying yes to? And what does that mean that you're saying no to? Does it mean that you said no to something better? Something that, you could have moved the needle forward, that would have, event A may be the more fun one, but event B may be the one that will actually move the needle forward on your business. So really be evaluating that and be honest with yourself.
Yeah, I think that when I feel nervous about going to a new networking type of event and I talk myself out of going, that's a fear response, right? But if I go to a networking event and I dread going because I feel like nobody's actually interested in forming relationships. They're just there to kind of pitch themselves and walk away.
Mm.
Those are the kind of events we're talking about. Like, that isn't really a good use of my time if I don't feel like it's actually moving the needle, helping me make relationships, and doing what networking is meant to do, right? So
Sometimes I feel like too, if I'm gonna attend an event and it's all my friends, like I was saying, that might be a more fun event, but at the same time, if there's another event going on, that might be the one that moves the needle forward. That might be the one that gives me new relationships and new opportunities.
exactly. Like, that is the thing. We're going to an event later where it's all these people we already know, and that'll be so fun, right? But those events that make me nervous to go, typically because I don't know who is there or who I'm
Yep.
going to meet, those are the ones I really
Yep.
should be going to. So there's a difference between, dreading an event because you're just nervous and you don't know who you're going to know, or dreading an event because you feel like it's not moving the needle forward. So knowing the difference between that.
Don't they always say, like, when you're uncomfortable, that means you're experiencing growth a lot of times? And so maybe really just, like I said, self investigation. Where is this gut feeling coming from? Is it, I'm going to be uncomfortable, or is it something different? And if it's just, I'm going to be uncomfortable, you got to go. You got to
Right.
go.
Yeah. A lot of people say growth happens in the uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And I would have to agree with that. But also knowing how much uncomfortable can you take? Like, if you're a true introvert, how much
Sure.
uncomfortable can you take before you just want to hide in your room and cry? Like, let's not go crazy. Okay. So, some signs a relationship might be due for a detox is if you feel obligated instead of excited. Now, we've talked about kind of the difference here. If you leave every interaction drained, that's kind of
Yep.
a little bit of a sign. Now, again, I know introverts feel drained every time they socialize. So we're not talking about personality styles here. We're talking about networking draining you because you're not getting anything back. You're not feeling like they're interested in
maybe
learning about you.
Maybe it's like, think of what your normal is, and then if this takes you to that next level, that's how you know for you. So we're speaking in generalities, but you know what
Yeah.
you can handle and you know when it's been too much.
That's a great point. Yes, I'm glad you made that. Yeah. You're always giving. Like, if you're at an event, you're always giving, but you're rarely receiving. Like,
Mhm.
you're leaned in, you're asking about them, you're asking what they do, you're asking who a good referral for them would be. And they answer all those questions and then they leave. you know, if the whole group is like that, it may be one that you want to cut out, or
Mhm.
they only reach out when they need something, like a favor or a shortcut or something like that, and you're like, nothing. Now, I am a huge fan of growing relationships with people. And then if I need a favor or I have a question about something and I know you're the expert on it, I have no problem asking because I know that when you have a question or you need a favor, I'm happy to help you. So,
Yes.
like you mentioned, and it was a great point, we're talking about outside your normal, something that is
Mhm.
really draining, something that you really feel no reward. And this is a perfect time of year to do it because you can look back at everything you did in 2025 and you can say, in that group, I made a lot of friends. I made a lot of connections. I grew my network. I tapped into some people. I got some referrals. Or you can say, you know what? In that group, I showed up. I passed my business card. I talked to people and I got nada, squat, nothing out of it.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a group that you detox.
Well, and I hear you talking about groups. I think it's important to point out individuals too. So even if you are part of a group and there's specific individuals within that group that send up those red flags, that's okay. Then you just network with the other people in the group and stay cordial to those people. But you don't have to go out of your way to collaborate with them or to promote their business per se. If they're kind of taking on more of that taker role, I think that that's a safe way to play that
Mhm.
game.
Mhm. Mhm.
And, it should kind of feel like a flow. It shouldn't be draining. There's something that I call energy vampires. It's just, you've spent time with them. And when you're done, you just feel like all the life just got sucked out of you. Now, I'm an extrovert. I could be called an energy vampire. So I have to be very careful that I do not suck all the energy out of people because extroverts, we feed off of other people's energy.
Mhm.
But I know I've interacted with energy vampires before where they suck all the life out of the conversation. They do exactly what you're saying, Donna. They just talk about themselves and get their connections and all those kind of things. And I'm left leaving the conversation feeling like, wait a minute, but we're not gonna, no, nothing together. No, no collaboration.
Right? You're not going to ask anything about me? Nothing?
No? Okay, cool. So, sometimes you just have to create those boundaries and give yourself permission. Like, I'm going to be part of this group, but I know I'm not going to interact with those people. Or I'm going to be a part of these three groups, but not that one group, because when I reflect, and I love when we were talking about attract number grows and doing the time audits, that you can really make notes to yourself, like made great connections, didn't make great connections. So when you do reflect on the year, you can say, this is something I want to continue. This is something I don't want to continue. And that's part of this detoxification, where we're looking at where our efforts are going, our time, where we're spending our energy, and is it paying off? What needs to go? It's time to
Yes.
clean up shop.
Right. And you can, hit reset with grace. You don't have to be dramatic. You don't need to make a dramatic exit.
Right?
You can just reset by declining event invites that no longer align or, no longer showing up to groups that you used to go to, stepping down from groups that have run their course, having, a kind, clear conversation with someone you need to create distance from if they keep chasing after you or hitting you up for favors or whatever. I think that really it's about looking at that audit of time, energy, effort, and what you've gotten from groups or networking events you've attended and deciding if that's something that you want to continue. I mean, of course, Tiffany and I believe in groups that meet weekly with the same people because you grow those relationships. But we also go to events where it's just a one off and you can meet new people. And I think those all have a space too for being really valuable. But there are some groups that throw one off events. And when you go, it's like you don't make good connections and you either don't meet a lot of people because nobody's really outgoing or you're sitting in one place because it's a fixed lunch and you don't meet many people. There's some events that you go to and you're not really getting anything from it. And because you've been, but you keep going back for some reason. And then
Right.
that's kind of like what we're talking about is like do an audit. Have you gotten anything from going to that? Especially if you're paying for it. Like if it's a free event, okay. But especially if you're paying for it, like are you really building networking connections that are growing your network and feeding your business? That's the kind of audit you need to look at.
Also keep in mind, free is not free. Like free, if you want to keep going, I get what you're saying. Like, okay, whatever. But also free is not free because it's still taking up your time.
Right.
So do be aware of that. Do be mindful. But it makes me think of two groups that I was a part of virtually during COVID.
Mm.
That wasn't necessarily somebody in my state or in my county, and I can do my work, for anybody anywhere. So that worked for me. And any connections that they could throw my way were great. But the reality was, as we all started to meet in person, my relationships became stronger with my closer geographical to me locations because those relationships were getting stronger and I was getting more referrals. So it made sense to let some of those other relationships go and let these take over, even though those had been valuable, reciprocal relationships through COVID. It was
Mhm.
just one of those things that a season, it's kind of like friends, we have friends for a season. And I think it's really important that whatever we commit to, it feels good for us. Like it matches our energy. It's in alignment. My son and I were just talking about, he was talking about how he's eating really bad. And I said, well, you know what? I kind of just go with my energy. We were talking about going to the gym too. And I'm like, if my energy's low and I'm just not feeling it, then I just kind of give myself a pass and I don't try as hard. And I don't, I'm not completely letting the floodgates open. I'm not eating just pizza and ice cream. But if I have a handful of M&Ms or something, so be it. And then the days that I'm more mentally strong, no, there's restrictions and I hold myself to a higher level. And it's the same thing when it comes to our networking. Like what feels good to you when you're not dreading events, when you go and you leave feeling energized, like I was talking about. And when you have those more deep relationships, again, that I was talking about that I had to replace when I had to decide, like, do I have time to keep doing the virtual groups, the in person groups, and maintaining all these relationships? No. Like my client work ebbs and flows, and my client work had gotten a lot more demanding. And so I had to give something up. And so what was that going to be? I think it's an important task to take time to look at the relationships, look at your networking efforts, and what do you want to keep investing in? Protect your time so you can pour into spaces that light you up, not ones that tear you down. When you let go of what is no longer fitting, you make space for the connections that truly support your growth.
Yes. And I think it's like one thing that you said that I just want to talk about, and that is obviously my clients ebb and flow in real estate. And your clients ebb and flow. I think in any business, when you are your busiest, it is so important that you continue networking in some
Mm.
way. Maybe you don't do as much, but in some way, because I know for real estate agents, the biggest problem that we all have is that when we're really busy, we stop doing our client generation work. Like we slow down on all of that because we're so busy running around doing all these other real estate things, right? And then when you're not busy, you go, oh my gosh, and you start frantically picking up all of these, client touch points and networking and all the things. And then it takes another 3 to 6 months to generate the business from
Mm.
that. So something that's really important when we're talking about this networking detox, we're not talking about cutting out all networking or lead gen activity. We're talking about realigning where you're spending your time, energy, and effort. But even if you're really busy, and we've seen this, in our networking group, we've literally heard people say, I'm so busy right now, I think I'm going to step away from networking until I have fewer clients and then I'll come back. And I'm like so puzzled by that because why would you ever want that?
Well, and why do you think you're busy?
Right. Like you're
It's because
busy
you've been
because of your
networking.
networking. Why would you stop doing that and wait until you're not busy? And now I'm only assuming you're freaking out. I don't get that. So we're not saying let go of all networking. We're just saying
No.
the other thing that,
Reevaluate.
and I'm going on another tangent here, but the other thing to do that I really love to do this time of year is to look at your clients or your customers that you gained last year and see where they came from, because you want to pour your time into that avenue. So if your clients came from social media, let's say, mine don't, but if your clients came from social media, maybe you up your social media game in 2026, right? But in my business, my clients come from relationships and referrals, and that comes from networking for me. And so in 2026, I want to up my networking game, right? To up my clients. And so I think it's really important to know where your clients come from.
Yeah.
Somebody I was talking to about a month or so ago, they said they needed to up their social media and they were going to invest in a social media manager and they were going to do all these things. And I think those people are very important. But when I asked her, like, how many clients did you get last year from your social media? And the answer was like one, it was less than 10% of their total clients. And I'm like, then why are we focusing on that so much and upping that part of your business? Like, where did you get the most clients from? It was networking. So I was like, well, why don't we up the networking game? So
Mm-hmm.
doing an audit of not only your energy, but also where your clients came from, I think are super important. And to be real, like if you're not getting anything from any of your networking, that's something you definitely should audit. Is it you? Is it your approach?
Mm-hmm.
Or is it the groups you're
Mm-hmm.
in or the events you're going
Mm-hmm.
to?
Yeah.
Because how could any business not get a client from networking if you're truly doing it right?
Agreed. Yep. I think that you make a really solid point in that. When you are arguing with everybody and you're like, oh, everybody's always arguing with me. Maybe you're the problem.
Right? Right.
If you're not getting activity from any of your networking, you got other problems.
Right. And with that being said, like, know your industry, right? So, like, if you sell a $10 product, you can probably get a lot of activity and business from networking, right? Instantly,
Yeah.
within
Yeah.
a month, right?
Yeah.
But if you're like a real estate agent or a mortgage person, you're probably not getting a client from your networking group for at least 6 months to a year, because we're talking about that kind of business, that kind of connection. So know your
Yep.
industry and know what would be normal, quote unquote, normal for your industry regarding networking. And then look at it. Yeah. Because if you haven't gotten a
Yeah.
single client from networking and you've been doing it right, then yeah, that might be a self audit that's needed there.
Yep. 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 Little tough love there. Sorry, guys.
All right, we're ready for this week's networking mode on tip. Do, guess what? A networking detox audit. Choose one group, one event, or one connection that no longer aligns and make a decision. Are you going to step away, set a boundary, or shift your energy elsewhere? Clearing space is a networking strategy. Networking mode on.
Feeling lighter already? We want to hear what you're letting go of. Send us a quick text using the link in the show notes or share a detox moment on social and tag us at _linkup lounge. We're cheering you on as you make room for what's next. Let's keep building those powerful links together.
You've been hanging out in the Link Up Lounge, your lounge for turning one link into endless opportunities.
Now it's your turn. Go make a powerful link today.
Networking mode on.